Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Tuesday, September 15th, 2020. I am Bhavin Olver with the details. The issue of transfer is a major focus point for the Electoral Office as the registration process continues. This was noted by the Supervisor of Elections, Dora James, and Deputy Supervisor Sylvester King, who were discussing the ongoing registration process on NBC Radio today. The Deputy Supervisor of Elections has called on the electorates to follow the regulations in place with respect to transfers.
You must be living in the area that you're seeking to be transferred to for no less than 6 months. And we are very serious about this, because if you were to obtain a transfer and it is not legitimate, that can be revoked. And there are penalties in the law to deal with that. Please don't let anybody force you to transfer. You're not, the law doesn't say that you have to change your residence if you were registered in one place. It's really on request, and it's really on the registrant's express desire.
The election supervisor said that for the upcoming general elections, there will be an increase in polling divisions from 231 to 235. She said this is because of the increase in the population in some constituencies.
You go to this list of the divisions. Is it in between each elections or a specific time period that you do?
Well, each time we see the quarterly list, we pay attention. And as we get closer to elections, we make those adjustments early enough so that our population, our people, our electorates would be able to have the information and be guided accordingly.
Certainly, because even strengthening what the supervisor has just indicated, it is really in the purview of the supervisor of election to keep these polling divisions under review. And they are not just introduced, cabinet, the supervisor of election has to write to cabinet indicating that there is a need to add some more stations, and on the approval of cabinet, those are implemented.
North Windward, West Kingstown and Central Kingstown, the constituencies which are expected to see an increase in their polling divisions. The pending general elections in SVG are being challenged to up the quality of their content on social media. The advice has come from Rodney Small and Bernava Brown, who were guests on last Sunday's discussion on WFM that dealt with why young people should vote in the upcoming elections. Both panelists pointed to the importance of the youth vote, noting that youth comprise the largest segment of the population. Brown, a town and country planning consultant, thinks social media can be an effective platform to get positive messaging targeting the youth.
I'm seeing already you have a lot of combative behavior that's happening on Facebook, a lot of Facebook and social media, a lot of aggressive behavior. When I would probably like the opportunity to be used to educate me on your policies and going forward on what you want to do. So I hope that in the future that's the direction that we will take it. It would be used as more of an education platform. And when I say educate, I don't mean that we want to see what are the 10,000 plans you want to do and all the statistics. No, maybe not then for social media, but maybe if you can provide a concise kind of post about what exactly you want to achieve, especially in our local areas, our local communities, that will be great.
Small, a cultural ambassador, said the youth are looking for quality content rather than so much combative interchanges and personal attacks.
The young people now are looking for things that could stimulate their mind, that could grab their interest, that could benefit them 5 years from now. You understand? Now, my thing is, each political party have 5 years to plan for the election. Nobody should be scrambling, nobody should be having content out there that is not worthy, that is not of good substance or good quality. You understand? Because you have 5 years to do this. And as Pijan is saying, I would love the both major parties to really ask, you know what I mean? Now, at the end of the day, you wouldn't be able to reach everybody, because a supporter would always be a supporter, and they would say what they want to say. But just like last night, I was saying to somebody who supports a different party than I support, that we must be able to meet each other and have a debate, have a discussion. I mean, one that stimulates my mind, one that is intense. And we respect each other after that. Because 110,000 people, we all can't support the same party. Totally impossible.
Unemployment in the country is the #1 issue of concern for the opposition Democratic Party. So says Israel Bruce, the NDP's candidate for South Central Windward, on the party's Monday night Facebook program. He said they will be addressing the issue in a frontal and fundamental way once voted into office. Bruce said politics should be about the people and their development. Hence the reason why the NDP is focusing heavily on creating employment opportunities for all Vincentians.
And your sense of satisfaction is not the number of SUVs or how many millions you have in a bank account, whether it's in Vincent or in Panama. That's not what you really get as a satisfaction. What you really get as a satisfaction is that you can go to bed knowing that 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, 200 families have gone to bed tonight feeling a lot better than they were 2 days ago, 5 hours ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago. So that you feel that sense of upliftment of people, and that will make you go to bed smiling even while you're sleeping.
Bruce said the NDP will put systems in place to develop the skills of young people to take advantage of the job opportunities which will be created.
Very often a young person will say to you, I need a job. And you ask that young person, well, what can you do? And they'll say to you, anything. And I'll say to that young person, look, anything is not a job. What theoretical qualifications do you have? What certification do you have? None. So I am saying that too many of our young persons are not positioned at the moment to find that job. What is my position on it? Let us use the skilled artisans across the constituency. This is in addition to the laser beam focus approach to making sure that our students who are going to school are going to be as best learned as they can and come up being as effective contributors to society. There are those who will be theoretically focused and skilled, and then those who will be skilled in their own orientation.
The NDP senator said the skills training program which will be created will help the youth to be marketable locally, regionally, and internationally.
Each of them will be required to write a program that will say from day 1 to the end of whether 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months, or a year. This is what each student will learn. And there will be continuous assessment of those students. Of course, the higher learning institutions will be brought on board to make sure the quality of the education delivered in these skill programs are up to standard. That will facilitate CARICOM certification. So you become a CARICOM skilled national. Not restricting you to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but allowing you to go across the spectrum of CARICOM and unemployment where employment possibilities pop up. Whilst they've been taught, they'll get a small stipend to keep them good. Because some of these young people with a child or 2 children at home. So you can't tell them go to this training program 5 days a week and then they have children to feed, so to find a way to sustain them.
The SVG Medicinal Cannabis Authority has issued a further set of licenses to traditional marijuana cultivators. The most recent set of 65 licenses were issued to 10 groups comprising more than 120 traditional growers, along with 45 individual traditional cultivators and 15 who had no experience cultivating marijuana. During a tour of the authority's headquarters yesterday, CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, Dr. Gerald Thompson, did a symbolic handing over of licenses to 2 groups of traditional farmers, the SVG Rastafari Agri Group and the Rastafari Progressive Society of Gregs. Dr. Thompson explained to them the terms and conditions of their license, banking arrangements, and cultivation guide.
The terms and conditions of your license. This is the banking arrangement, because at Bank of St. Vincent Grenadines, they are going to be taking care of this particular group and making sure that they're set up correctly and that they meet with all the banking compliance. And then I want to also add cultivation guide. This is a guide that we give to all of our licensees on exactly how to look at the industry. We've also found that some of the investors, and there's some new rules that are required. So the SOPs address some of these things. And standard operating procedures are critical if we are to obtain the quality that we need in order to ensure that it. But our goal, as I said, is to make sure we have the highest quality, but we have lower cost of production. Remember, banana used to have high quality but high cost of production, and when prices fell, you know, we had a few little challenges. But we are hoping that we would actually be around for a very long time.
He advised the cultivators to link with investors to establish contractual arrangements and a memorandum of understanding so they can have their produce sold. Dr. Thompson expressed pride about the patient regulations that would enable persons to now go to trained doctors who can prescribe medicinal marijuana products.
Encouraging is that the investors have to link with traditional cultivator groups and traditional cultivators and establish those contractual arrangements and MOUs so as to purchase the product from them. And we are quite pleased that based on our laws, based on our regulations, and based on the team here at the MCA, we have been able to do this. I'm also quite proud of our patient access regulation. Today, patients can now go to their doctor who have been trained, and we've trained over 98 doctors and pharmacists in how to prescribe and how to administer medicinal cannabis. And I'm really happy to say that we've now received several applications from doctors. We've approved them, and patients are now talking about it, and we've now gotten the first dispensary. I'm sure there'll be others, and persons will be able to have their prescription filled.
The CEO said he is also pleased that patients from around the world can access prescriptions to obtain medicinal cannabis here in SVG.
I must tell you that in our laws, we also allow for patients from other countries, from Canada, from Europe, from even the United States, who come here on a cruise ship or come here for a day or two to bring their prescription. Or they may be able to call in online and get their prescription filled for their medicinal cannabis. And I know that earlier on there was a display. As a medical doctor, sharing with Dr. Slater, it is amazing the medicinal benefits of cannabis and the years in which the Rastafari used to expound this and say it's good for this, and we just didn't believe them. Their list of things in terms of pain, in terms of epilepsy, in terms of neurological diseases.
And physician Dr. Wayne Murray, who spent several hours in police custody today, was released without charge. In a telephone interview, one of his lawyers, Vinette Fredericks, told SVG-TV News that her client was taken to the Central Police Station in Kingston at around 11 a.m. today, and released without charge sometime after 4 p.m.
For the time that I was with him, the police did not interact with him, did not lay any charges against him, and had no conversation with him whatsoever in my presence about anything that touched and concerned any allegation of any wrongdoing. My understanding was that he was visited at his clinic by the police, who, in the presence of a number of his patients, asked him to come with them to the station, and he effectively was arrested. They took him to the station, 4 police officers. He rode with them in the back of one of their police vehicles in between 2 officers.
Asked whether the apparent detention might have had something to do with a Facebook post made earlier in the day, Frederick said there was no indication of such and questioned the motives behind the police action taken today.
I question how the police allocates its resources. I mean, you whatever the offense, surely, whatever the allegation, surely, to take a medical doctor from his clinic where he was tending to patients and bring him to the police station where he essentially sits there for hours with nothing being done. I don't know if your investigations are ongoing or what. In a circumstance where this man is neither a flight risk nor presents a violent threat to anyone. This man is a lifesaver, someone who tries to preserve human life, and is very widely and highly respected. I think about whether it is his activism, his commentary on situations facing himself and his family in relation to a particular land matter, whether that would have prompted, this kind of attention from the police.
Dr. Murray was recently in a land issue in which the government acquired at least 3 acres of his family-owned lands for tenants who had been leasing from the Murrays for a number of years. The SVG Community College has forged a new educational partnership with the Sagicor Cahill School of Business Management. UWI aimed at advancing the human capital of SVG and by extension that of the Caribbean. The new partnership will allow Vincentians to access a host of flexible online programs offered by the Cahill School of Business, including executive diplomas, executive masters, doctorates, and short courses. Vincentians will also be able to access via the SVG Community College privileged pricing for selected programs at the Cahill School of Business. Director of the SVG Community College, Nigel Scott, said their partnership with the region's premier university goes back many years, and it is one that they treasure. He said the partnership, the Sagicor Cahill School of Business and Management, to provide additional opportunities for Vincentians is a testament to the long-standing relationship. Vincentians are encouraged to take immediate advantage of the partnership by applying by Friday the 13th of November 2020 for courses starting in January 2021. Documentation is key if works of great artists, composers, and musicians are to be preserved for future generations. And thanks to the works done by the National Cultural Foundation, several local patriotic songs have been transcribed and preserved. Speaking at the launch of the Vincentians Patriotic and School Songs today at the Peace Memorial Hall, Chair of the National Cultural Foundation, Wallace Christopher, said thanks to the efforts of Junior Sutherland, 13 traditional songs from Vincentian composers such as Ellsworth Sheikh Keane, Ebenezer Duncan, and Alban Henry have been transcribed, transposed, and enhanced, allowing choirs and mixed ensembles to perform these compositions. Songs from 13 secondary schools and 5 primary schools have also been preserved. Christopher highlighted why it is so important to preserve these songs.
Production also seeks to document and preserve the works of composers and musicians of school songs. Most of the time, these were mainly principals. Of 13 of our secondary schools and 5 primary schools. I am sure everyone will agree that the school song of every alma mater is, metaphorically speaking, the anthem of that institution. It is the song that we hear most at almost every function the school has, be it assemblies, sport days, graduation, etc. Therefore, we can safely conclude that the school song is perhaps the first step towards instilling, inculcating, and engendering pride, respect, and a sense of patriotism.
Christopher said he hopes that schools nationwide will access these cultural gems.
All the logistics are worked out with the Ministry of Education and all the stakeholders. The National Cultural Foundation will wish to have a ceremony where we could present these books to at least each primary, secondary, and tertiary institution in the state, along with our embassies and so on overseas. The remainder of these books we wish to place on sale at various bookshops in and around Kingston, so that the general public would be given the opportunity to grab hold of this national treasure.
And Minister of Tourism, Sports and Culture, Cecil McKee, said this compilation is another gem which fits alongside a recently done compilation of local folk songs. He added that the compilation of songs is useful in preserving this country's rich heritage.
It is a way of getting the schools introduced to this rich heritage and also to introduce those songs to the community and to the world. It is also the intention of Junior and the NCF and the other units to put together a national school band. And when I was listening to Wallace a while ago, I'm sure that it must be part of the plans of the NCF. But I want to suggest that one of the aspects of putting the compilation of both the folk songs and the patriotic songs together is to have the police band, the national school band, and any other band that they may think appropriate to assist with putting these compilations together. Because not only must we have the printed material, but we must have that material available out to the diaspora as well, so that Vincentians and the non-Vincentians could have access to it.
The mobile application market continues to grow exponentially, and the director of the National Telecommunications and Regulatory Commission, the NTRC, says the entity will continue to inspire the youth of SVG to take advantage of the opportunities offered by the mobile application market. The NTRC's Apollo Nights was at the time speaking at the launch of the 2020 NTRC iCode competition, which is now in its 8th year. The competition focuses on mobile apps and ideas that can facilitate the implementation of new systems or improve old ones in both private and public sectors. The competition runs from September the 15th to November the 10th, 2020, and is open to students of secondary schools, tertiary institutions, and non-students 35 years and below. Speaking at the launch, Knight said the competition exists to inspire the youth to create solutions to problems using mobile applications.
There are those who may say that there are already millions of apps developed and one for any need you may have. So there's no future in app software development. I will say to them, just do some research on a company called BlackBerry and one called WhatsApp. You will see that new ideas and solutions disrupts existing solutions. Further, according to businesswire.com, the global mobile application market was valued at $106 billion in 2018, just 2 years ago. But the important point, it's projected to reach $407 billion by 2026, which is an annual growth rate of 18.4%, ladies and gentlemen. I think if you have a passion for generating ideas that solves existing problems and needs, and also a passion for coding, or no others with such a passion, I think this is the area to focus on in the coming years. There's no other sector I can think of that will provide such growth opportunities.
Highlighting some of the largest companies globally, Knight said there continues to be an emphasis on creating software applications. And it is hoped that through the I2 competition, SVG can become an exporter of software applications.
All right, still around. It's not a software company, but it's out of the top 5. Number 2 back then was Cisco Systems, still around. They make hardware equipment for networks, but they're no longer in the top 5. Number 3 back then is ExxonMobil, which is an oil and gas company, still around, but no longer in the top 5. Number 4 back then was Pfizer, which is a healthcare company. Number 5 though was Microsoft, so they were back in the top 5 back then, number 2 now. And they were actually number 1 in 1999. But after the dot-com bubble burst, they dropped to number 5. So they've been around for a while, but as you see the shift, software is dominating the companies. Well, the big companies are all software-based. So we at the NTRC want St. Vincent and Grenadines to not only be an importer of software and services from these companies, but a creator and exporter of software and apps. This iCode 784 competition is one part of the NTRC strategy in trying to facilitate this objective.
The NTRC director challenged the youth of SVG to come up with innovative ideas and take part in the competition.
So I am challenging our youths to seek the necessary skills and create teams and see how we can create applications using this ecosystem to do things that were not possible previously. If you are able to do that, you can create an app and a business that can transform St. Vincent and Grenadines, the region, and the world. But always remember, every successful app starts with a great idea. And anyone can come up with a great idea, no coding experience needed. There's no better time to start this journey than to enter this year iCode 784 competition. So identify the problem and the need, create a solution by a new idea, write your code. And never forget that I can code from right here in the 784. Thank you.